This is Ben Ingram from the Atlanta Braves Radio Network, and it's time to go riding with the Braves, presented by Chevrolet. Let's see who else is riding with us today. Riding with the Braves, and joining us today is Braves hitting coach Tim Hyers, and we're riding in the Chevy 2500 High Country. I mean, this thing is spacious. This thing is awesome, and I know this is going to be a good ride for us today.
Sure is. We're riding in luxury here.
Yeah, we are. We got the AC pumping. I even got air conditioning coming through the seat, which is really nice here in Georgia.
Yes, we need that in Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. But, man, thanks so much for doing this. This is great to have you along with us, and it's been fun to get to know you over the course of the season, and usually when you and I are chatting, we're down there at the cage and talking about baseball and such. But as far as how things have gone for you personally, what's it like being back in Georgia, your home state?
It's been awesome so far. Seeing a lot of family and friends, and brings back a lot of memories.
I bet
that's the cool thing. When you're growing up around here, just with my dad, and I was at the game when Hank Aaron hit 715.
Were you really?
Yes, yeah. Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. Parents took me to the game. I was 3 or 4 at the time. I don't remember much, but I do remember, getting this certificate after the game. And I mean, it was pretty cool just to live those memories, and my dad talk about it. But that tells you what a sports fan he was and a Braves fan. So a lot of memories that way.
That is so cool. So I mean, growing up, it wasn't just being around Georgia. I mean, you're growing up watching the Braves, listening to the Braves, and going to games.
Absolutely. My dad, he worked in construction and just a baseball nut. And he'd come home, and no matter how tired he was, he'd come. We'd play catch, we'd do our thing, and then we love watching the games. But the big part was my mom doing her work, and my dad, we sit down and watch the games. And as soon as we have a commercial break or whatever, he had this. We'd always pick up, when I was little, had this little wiffle ball bat, and he had these Nerf balls, and we're in there. He's throwing me batting practice, and I'm hitting them and breaking things in the house. But no, it was I just remember those stories and those times that I cut my teeth in the game, because that's where we sat on the couch or sat in the living room and watched, and we talked strategy. He loved to the pitcher catcher, pitcher hitter strategy of what they were going to throw next, and I think that's where I started the love of being a hitting guy.
See, now that's interesting. It's not just that you got hooked on baseball early; you got hooked on the specific element of hitting.
Yeah, I
really
did.
Early.
He was a teacher at heart, and still is. He still coaches the little youth leagues with his grandsons. But he was a teacher, and I guess I saw that, and kind of followed after him a lot. But that's what I enjoy, that part even today. It's just the battles with the players, and my dad was always positive and always understood how hard the game was to play. So he was that encourager, and you always felt good hanging around him, even if you had a bad day at the plate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you played in the big leagues,
yeah.
But all along in your career, was it in the back of your mind that maybe you would like to get into coaching one day?
Funny you asked that. No. I mean, as a player, when, you're sitting there, it's like, no, I'll never be a coach. Really. I mean, I love, talking the game. I love that strategy part, but I just didn't see myself as a coach. And then, when I got through playing and stepped out for 1 year, and then jumped into scouting for a little while. It was kind of a long story where one of my friends got me into the scouting, and loved that part. Got to, see the family a little bit more when my kids were in high school. And then next thing you know, the offer came around to be a hitting coach, and have loved it ever since.
It's hard to get away from this game, isn't it?
It is. My wife said, when I got out, she's like, "You're miserable. Get yourself back in the game." And she was right.
Yeah. So what was your route? Let's talk about you as a player. What was your route to the big leagues like, from high school all the way through to the big leagues?
Went to Newton High School, and had some college scholarship offers. I was going to go to Georgia Tech with Coach Jim Morris.
Yeah.
Remember that, playing with Nomar and Jason Varitek, that crew, in the early 90s, and then got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. So went 3 or 4 years in the minor leagues, and it's kind of funny now. You remember the Fred McGriff trade in '93?
Yes.
All right. That kind of opened a spot for me, because the next year, that in the off season, I was traded to the Padres.
Okay.
So I started my career from the Blue Jays to the Padres, and that's where I got my break in the big leagues. So I made the team out of camp with the Padres, played a couple years, And then I got on that trade bandwagon, got traded to Detroit, Arizona, and then ended up my career with the Marlins.
All right, two guys I want to ask you about. Number one, I'm looking up your playing career.
Mm.
Your major league debut, first pitcher you faced, Greg Maddox, wasn't it?
Greg Maddox.
Oh my gosh.
Boy,
What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is definitely a tough game.
Yeah.
Facing this guy. I just remember Tony Gwynn come up to me. I grounded out to shortstop and put his arm around me, and he said, he goes, big guy, it gets easier after that one.
Well, and that was the other guy I want to ask you about, because first pitcher you faced Greg Maddox, but your teammate, Tony Gwynn. I mean, seriously, if you could be around any hitter in the history of the game on a short list, he's on the list.
He's on the list. I just wish so many people could have hung out with him and talked hitting and talked the game. He loved the game of baseball. That he wanted to do his part better than anybody else. And that was what was so phenomenal about being around him. I learned so many things, and a lot of things I learned from him I still try to share today. And you talk about a student of the game and someone who talked baseball. I just remember after games, I mean, he's sitting in the locker room, or a lot of times in the training room doing icing his knees and some ailments, but he was always asking questions, always interacting with his teammates, and he shared a boatload of knowledge that I'm very grateful to be around.
Just a baseball IQ through the roof, I'm guessing.
Yes, and he loved to talk the game, and
Yeah.
I remember him asking me some questions, and and I was like, wow, I mean, this guy's won more batting titles than I've got days in the big leagues, and he was always talking the game, and he's a great teammate. He treated everybody the same, and he loved the game, and it was fun to be around.
So obviously we've got your dad, we've got Tony Gwynn. What other names do you think you'd throw out there for guys that you've pulled the most wisdom from about the game and about hitting in particular?
There's a couple. As an ex-Braves hitting coach, Merv Retman, if you remember that name, that was my rookie year in San Diego, and I remember him being a guy that he could identify with each hitter, and that was huge. And he wasn't just a cookie cutter, everybody swing the same way. He could identify, and I remember that. I was like, that's pretty neat that he could see it from my perspective as a hitter. So he gave me a lot of knowledge, and even after I got through playing, he always stayed in contact. And when I was hitting coach in the past years, he always check in on me and see how things were going. He was one. Bill Buckner was my. He was a roving hitting instructor when I was in minor leagues with the Blue Jays, and he was a guy that, again, old school guy that loved the game, but loved the basics of training and understood how hard the game was to play. And you loved being around him because he was very encouraging and very, had a lot of wisdom, but also never forgot how hard this game is to play. And so those are a couple guys that from the past that I learned a lot from. And I've learned a lot from a lot of players, as you're in this game and you're always trying to learn, you never know it all. Just some of the players that have been across in my career, is just playing with the Sean Greens of the world and Carlos Delgados, even the players I coach with, J.D. Martinez and Justin Turner. They're just guys who share information, love to talk hitting, and so I've been very fortunate to be around them.
Yeah, that's a great list. And just, you bring up a really good point. You could be around this game 50, 60, 70 years, and you're still learning about the game. I mean, there's still new elements, and that's especially the case with hitting. And the only way that you're going to experience that is just by being around the guys, listening to them talk, hearing what they have to say, and picking things apart. I think that's fascinating. Going back to what you mentioned with Tony Gwynn, just the conversations that come about hitting, about specific pitches, specific players, ballparks, conditions, etc. That never ends, does it?
It never ends. It never ends. I enjoyed this spring training. McGriff coming by and Chipper and the guys, just talking about, obviously the history with the Braves and the players they played with and telling those stories. I think as a coach, you better be a good listener, and you better listen and take in, because the game is always evolving, and you better be curious about moving forward and staying, I would say up to date, but moving with the game, because things do change. And so that's the part I do enjoy, hanging out with the guys that have that experience, and they probably get tired of me asking so many questions, but but I do understand and really value their wealth of wisdom.
In 2025, we have so much information. I mean, you can get overwhelmed on numbers, information, etc. How challenging is it to balance new age analytics, things that can help players, how much an individual player can handle when it comes to that kind of information versus old school mentality, eye test, see ball, hit ball?
You nailed it. It really is hard.
Yeah.
Because you want to give them the most information. You feel like there's some things they need that, possibly could help them, especially when things aren't going well. But then there's times when you have to have enough instinct to back off also. I always say, saying in spring training is like we're always going from wide to narrow, trying to take a lot of information and narrow it down so the player can use it. But sometimes, it's just the simplest form can be the best. And so you're always pushing the envelope a little bit because you want them to be, have the knowledge. You want them to be ready for the game and all the information that they may need. But also sometimes you maybe take it too far and you've got to have the instincts, hey, I got to back this off and let's just go play and be and let them play at the purest form and what got them here. So I think you're always pushing it, but also you got to have the knowledge and the instincts to back off whenever it's time to be.
It's such a fascinating thing because I don't know that you could ever really, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I just don't know that you could ever really nail it to the point where you got it all figured out. I mean, it's like fighting a puzzle that's fighting, or trying to solve a puzzle that's fighting back against you. And I heard Chipper say one time, and this really was fascinating for me to just kind of savor and think about. He said, if you don't know what the pitcher is trying to do, then you're just going to be guessing the whole time. And I find out, as I think about that, is so it's not just about your approach of the plate. You're trying to figure out what that guy's going to do to you so you can figure out what you're going to do to adjust to it. And that's all happening like that. I don't know how anybody ever gets a hit, ever.
Yeah, it is. You're exactly right, and that's the part. That is the instincts. And that's what trying to be a hitting coach is help our guys see the game at a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back. You mentioned Chipper. I mean, he's one of the best, and that's what you pick up from those guys that had a lot of success. And getting better at that each night is something that we're trying to keep on improving with our younger guys and even with our veteran guys. So yeah, it is that. The pitcher controls the baseball. He controls what he's going to do, and we're always reacting. But we're trying to get some of those percentages in our favor,
Mm-hmm.
and by being prepared and by reflecting on some of those experiences in the past that we can try to even out the playing field.
Let me ask you about watching a player for the first time. Let's say you got a guy in the cage that you're watching for the first time. What are you looking for? What are the first few elements of a guy being in the cage swinging that jump out to you?
Is how his body's moving in the box. I think everybody's different. And so how is he moving? How is his body generating force to get it into the barrel, out through the baseball? And and then what kind of adjustments does he make? If the ball's thrown high or low or inside, how does his body react? And you're trying to see where those, maybe that low hanging fruit where you can help him, in the short term. But in the long term, you're getting to know him and how he reacts to different parts of his swing, the game, different speeds, and those types of elements.
And it's all about adjustments, I'm guessing.
It is. At this level, it is about adjustments. And, drawing from that experience and helping them see things at a deeper level, like I said before, and that's the adjustment part, because every single night is a different pitcher. It's like a different book. And so you have to read it and be aware and make those, adjustments on the fly. And from pitch to pitch and at bat to at bat, guys are making adjustments. And that's the part, that's the reason it's a tough game for some young guys.
Yeah,
there's a lot being thrown at them in a short period of time. And like you said, the opposing teams have a lot of information about them as soon as they even walk into the big leagues.
I want to ask you about a few individual players, and you just start. I'm not even going to ask you anything specific. I'm just going to mention a player. You tell me what you like, what you're seeing with them, and what separates them. Let's start with the guy at the top of the order, Ronald Acuna.
Wow, he's just a highlight show every single night. He's one of those guys that impacts the game in all aspects of the game, and especially with the bat, and it's one swing in the bat changes the scoreboard in a heartbeat, and he's full of energy. And the part where I got to know him, he loves to play this game at kind of a youth level. He loves to put the uniform on and go play, and kind of that part of entertaining the fans, but also it's when you're that talented, I mean, it's a lot of fun to swing the bat and do the things he does, and he's full of impact and love being around him.
Is the biggest separator for him in the box how quick his hands are? Because it just seems like he can allow that ball to get a little bit deeper than maybe the average player, and then boom, lightning strikes, hands across, ball's flying.
Exactly right. He loads his body in such a unique way and an athletic way that he can do that. He can allow the baseball to travel, loads the body, and then unloads the force into the ball extremely quick. And obviously he's got golden hands, and he's got those hands that are extremely quick and be able to get the barrel to the ball.
So a lot of that's not teachable. That's God given.
So yes, God given, and but I think it just goes to his athleticism that he's able to repeat his move so many times and be able to get his body in a strong position to allow the hands to work. So the hands, I believe, are the God given part, but his athleticism get him into that position to be able to repeat his mechanics and to be consistent.
So much fun to see that. I want to ask you about Ozzie Albies, and this kind of draws from a conversation you and I had earlier in the year. And I use Ozzie because he's a switch hitter.
Uh-huh.
And it's so fascinating what a switch hitter has to do to be ready for a game. You don't have the same swing left as you do right. And in Ozzie's case, he didn't even use the same size bat as he uses left versus right. So discuss the work that goes into being a switch hitter and figuring that out from both sides.
And it's double the work. I learned a lot from Jason Varitek when I was with the Red Sox, being a switch hitter, and he just taught me so much. Because, I wasn't a switch hitter. I don't really know how it feels. But it's training two different swings. He's got to train twice as much, and he has two different feels. And I don't think there's a hitter on earth that it's exactly the same from both sides, just because you have weak sides, a weak part of your body, a weak side, and a strong side. And so, we talk about it all the time. When he picks the glove up every single day to throw, he loads his body, obviously right-handed. When he loads the body and gets ready to swing the bat left-handed, it's totally different position, different move. So he's got a lot of work to do. It's not easy to keep him in groove and in sync all the time. And that's the reason those guys are special players. And it takes a lot to keep it going.
So by the time he jumps in the cage to swing right-handed, he's loaded his body 50 times that day.
Yes,
just from throwing.
Yes, and not to get technical, but that's what players do. That's the reason they're so special, is they load the body in a really strong position, consistent position. It's almost like throwing. So each day he's out there taking ground balls, throwing. He's already thrown 50, 60 times. He's loaded his body right. Now lefty, when he steps into the batter's box, first time he's loaded his body. So that's part of the obstacles. And then also, how you see the baseball, how they pitch you, how your body's feeling for that day. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of work for them. And there's very few times I think they feel that both sides are humming at the same time.
Yeah,
they're always trying to battle and get both sides in that perfect position that they want.
we've seen Drake Baldwin come a long way in a short amount of time, all around, behind the plate, throwing guys out, at the plate with a bat in his hands. What have you discovered with him? Because he's been brand new for you and brand new for all of us as a rookie. And what have you enjoyed watching about his game that's advanced so quickly?
Obviously, he's got talent, and we've seen that. He's got a lot of talent in this game. And I think the Braves fans are going to just have a exciting time watching this guy grow and watching this guy play over a number of years. I know I am. He's well beyond his time as far as his maturity in the game. I've been around a lot of rookies and a lot of young guys that struggle with numerous things, and he's handled so many things well. He's very unemotional about some of the slumps and some of the struggles, and he's very open, and he has the ability to talk through those things, which is very unique because of, young player trying to prove himself. That's what I see right now. But obviously his talent level is off the chart. He's got power. He sees the ball so well. But on the field and in the batter's box, he's one of the best that I've been around of how well he sees the ball, how well he picks up the ball early, and then obviously he's got power, and he's got that really for a big guy, he's got a short stroke, and I tease him all the time, and that's like his hockey stroke. I said that's his
Yeah.
that's his slap shot. He always talks about hockey when he was a youth player, and,
Right.
and we joke around and said, hey, that hockey is bringing a lot of benefits for you right now in the batter's box.
Yeah, I bet it makes him a pretty good low ball hitter.
It does. He's going to be a special player, and I think these fans here are going to really enjoy him over the years.
Definitely. Well, speaking of enjoying, this has been really enjoyable for me to have you with us today. I know our viewers are going to really enjoy this as well. It's been great to have you here, man, and I'm glad we finally got a time to do this, and always enjoy picking your brain about hitting, so thanks so much for the time today.
Hey, it's an honor. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Yes, sir.